everybody, Mrs. Jones here from Croes-y-Parc Chapel. Well, lockdown's not going to stop me from doing assemblies for you. Every other week we'll have a link post on your classroom for us to find. Now, I hope you all had a great Christmas. Different, I know. One of my favourite presents I got was a magic show. Someone did a magic show for us over Zoom because we couldn't see them in person. And it was lovely. We had half an hour of great magic tricks. And I thought, well, why don't I treat you to my own little magic trick? Let's see. Right, I got my cards here. Normal pack of cards. Holly, my able assistant, tell you what, let's take the first top two. What have we got? We've got the 7 and the 8. We've got diamonds and cards. We're going to put them back into the pack. Now I'm going to look away at this point. Holly can put them anywhere. Back into the pack of cards. Not looking. Okay, I'm going to close them. Right, okay, so we had our 7 of hearts, 8s of diamonds. Let's see if I can find them. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Impressed? Yeah? Maybe not. So the reason I wanted to show you a trick was because I'm going to tell you a story today from the Bible about some trickery going on between some brothers. This goes all the way back. You've got to go all the way back in the Bible to Abraham. Abraham was their grandfather. Then their dad was called Isaac. And these boys were called Jacob and Esau. Well, they were men by the time we got to this story. So Jacob and Esau were twins. But actually they were quite different looking. So Esau was quite a hairy man. He was really good at hunting. And he would go out and he'd hunt and he'd get lots of nice food for them to eat. And then his brother was Jacob. And he wasn't hairy like Esau. Jacob was quite smooth. He wasn't very good at hunting. He liked to just sort of sit around in the tents. So he had these twins. And in those days, only the eldest child would get the inheritance and the blessing from their parents when their father died. So when you're twins, it was all about who was born first, and Esau was born first. So whilst they're the same age, he was destined to get all the inheritance from his family at the time. Now, Jacob was a little bit tricky. He could probably do the tricks like me. So the first trick he did on Esau was he kind of cooked up a lovely, nice stew, nice meal. But at a time when he knew Esau was absolutely famished, he'd been out in the fields hunting probably for days, and he was thirsty, he was famished, and he came in and he could smell this delicious food that Jacob had been preparing, and he was like, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. Sometimes when you're so desperate, you'll just do anything. And Esau was at that point, he was going to do anything, and Jacob knew it, and he said, oh, you can have my stew if you give me my birthright, i.e., if you say, in a sense, that I was the one who was born first. And Esau was so desperate, so wanting this food, that he did. He kind of handed over his birthright to Jacob. So that was part 1 of his dastardly plan. Part 2 was that he wanted his father's blessing. Now, as his father got older and older, and he knew his days were numbered, he couldn't see very well at all, and he was ready to give the blessing. And this was passing on really the blessing that God had given his father Abraham and then to him, and he was going to pass this on to his son, and it was going to be given to Esau. And so he said to his wife Rebecca, it's time for the blessing. And he said, Esau, go and hunt a lovely stew and make a feast, and I will give you my blessing. So Esau goes off and hunts and does a good job. He goes and finds, probably with his bow and arrow, some lovely deer or something. I don't know, whatever they had. But in the meantime, Rebecca, who had her favourite son Jacob, said, Jacob, come on, right, I'm going to quickly make a bit of goat stew. You go get a goat from the garden. We'll put on this goat stew and we'll go and give it to your father. And we'll trick your father into giving you the blessing. But they realised, Esau, hairy man. So what should we do? Okay, let's go put some of his clothes on so you smell like him. And then these goats that we've just chopped up for the pot, we'll use some of this goat skin and put it on your arms, because that's how hairy Esau was. He felt as hairy as a goat. So they went in and they said, Father, it's me, Esau. And Isaac, even though he's blind, he said, oh, it sounds like Jacob. Come here, let me feel you. So over comes Jacob with his goat skin hairy arms, and he lets his father touch him, and he feels so hairy, he thinks, oh, it is Esau. And he gives him the blessing. He puts his hands on him and prays this blessing to him. And then it can't be undone. Jacob has it. He has tricked Esau out of his birthright and out of the blessing. Now when Esau comes back from the field and finds out what goes on, he is fuming. He's so annoyed with his brother. He's so angry that in fact he swears, as soon as my father has died, I'm going to kill Jacob. He's that mad with him. And his mother hears this plan, so he says to Jacob, she said, Jacob, your brother is so annoyed, he's going to kill you. You're going to have to run away. Go and stay with my uncle, your uncle, my uncle, not sure, Laban. He lives over in another land. Go and stay with him and you'll be safe. And so he does. He runs away to avoid the anger of Esau. But then the tables turn. And while Jacob is hiding over with Laban, Laban plays a bit of a trick on him. So the tables are turned, the trickster is tricked. Now what is this trick he does? Well, as soon as Jacob arrives, he sees Laban's beautiful daughter Rachel and he falls in love. Oh, Laban, please let me marry your daughter Rachel. Oh, well, if you work for me for 7 years, then yes, you can marry her. So without hesitation, yes, I will work for you for 7 years. And then after 7 years, he's like, right, now I can marry Rachel. But Laban's got another daughter called Leah, and she's older than Rachel. And in those days, you kind of wanted your oldest daughter married off first. So Laban tricks Jacob into marrying Leah instead. He puts a big veil on her, and he doesn't know who it is he's marrying. So he ends up marrying the older sister Leah, and then he has to work another 7 years until he can marry Rachel. So I've got a little challenge for you. I want you to see, not if you can play a trick on someone, I want you to see whether you can do the sort of Isaac smell and touch taste. I'm going to ask my little assistants to come over again. I'm going to close my eyes, and then I'm going to get one on one side, one on the other, and I don't know which side they are, and I'm going to see whether I can tell, just like Isaac did, from smell and touch, who is it that I've got in front of me. I'm just waiting for them. They're making sure that they mix themselves up nicely. Okay, right. Are you ready, guys? You don't have to say anything. Have I got any arms to touch? Right, okay. Here is one. Okay. Okay. So I can feel that, and then, oh, they've both got hoodies on. And it smells quite similar. It's tricky when you can't see, isn't it? Just like Isaac. So I'm going to open my eyes. That one was Holly, that one was Gethin. Thank you, guys. Maybe you could set up a little science experiment today in your house. Ask someone whether they can tell what it is you are holding just by smell and touch alone. Little blindfold on. So there's your little challenge. But let's get back to what is the point of this story? Why is it in the Bible? Is it just to tell us about some trickery twins? Well, I think the key thing is God is not telling us that it's okay to play tricks on each other. What he's showing us is that Jacob messes up big time, doesn't he? And there's a lot of mistakes that go on in this family. But God is faithful to that promise that he made. So he made a promise with his grandfather Abraham, and again with his father Isaac. And now that promise falls to Jacob. So even though Jacob has messed up, God is going to stay faithful to him, and the promise that there will be all these descendants. And so God uses people who mess up all along. So that's great news for us, isn't it? Because there are times when we're going to mess up, and we know that God can still use us. And it also shows that, God forgives, that he didn't hold that against Jacob. And actually, in the end, it's quite nice. Jacob and Esau do get back together and they reconcile their relationship. They become friendly brothers again. The pain is still there, but they can move past it. So everyone, I hope you have a great day. Whatever you're up to, be kind to your parents, be kind to your brothers and sisters. No twin trickery. Do a little bit of an experiment. And remember that whatever we mess up, God will still use us and still remain faithful to us.